The call for one nation, one election is gaining momentum. The ruling NDA government plans to implement one nation, one election policy within its current term. The initiative plans to hold simultaneous elections for Lok Sabha, state assemblies, as well as local bodies. So what is one nation, one election? Well, it's a concept that it aims to synchronize elections across India. Currently, elections for Lok Sabha, the lower house of India's parliament, and state assemblies happen at different times due to varying durations of legislative terms. The proposed idea is to align all these elections so that both national and state polls are held simultaneously across the country, ideally once every 5 years. The proposal requires a constitutional amendment which would first synchronize Lok Sabha and state assembly polls and then local body elections within 100 days. But why change the current system? Well, India's election cycle is quite frequent, with various state and national elections happening almost every year. The Election Commission of India spends a significant amount of resource in conducting these elections. To put it in perspective, the cost of 2019 Lok Sabha election alone was 60,000 crore rupees, including the expenses by political parties as well as the government. State elections further add to the cost with different budgets across different states. In addition to direct financial expenditure, frequent elections lead to indirect costs like disruption in governance due to the Model Code of Conduct and excess pre-election spending on various doles and schemes. The MCC rules restrict governments from announcing new policies, making key decisions, or initiating major projects during election period. Repeated imposition of MCC throughout the year due to staggered elections slow down governance and development work. Apart from money, there is an election-related allocation of manpower. Thousands of personnel, including teachers, government employees, security forces, are deployed during elections. Conducting multiple elections within a few years places burden on this workforce and keeps them away from their designated duties. Moreover, the large-scale deployment of security forces across states is logistically demanding, leading to substantial resource mobilization costs. If elections were to be held simultaneously, several costs would likely come down significantly. In form of Election Commission's expenditure, a synchronized election would mean fewer electoral process over a 5-year period. The direct costs related to voting infrastructure, logistics, and deployment of personnel would be reduced. The election infrastructure, primarily polling stations, electronic voting machines, the EVMs, and the VVPAT, could be more efficiently managed and utilized, lowering equipment costs. Simultaneous elections will also lower political party spending. Political parties often spend enormous amounts of money on campaigning, rallies, and advertisements. Currently, separate state and national elections increase these costs. If the elections are synchronized, parties can consolidate their campaigns, cutting down the financial burden significantly. Needless to say, logistics and security costs will also go down. In a staggered election cycle, these forces need to be mobilized repeatedly across different states. A synchronized election will mean minimizing the number of mobilizations, reducing logistical cost and pressure on the country's security apparatus. So what would be the total estimated cost reduction? Well, there is no precise figure on how much one nation, one election will save. Although a high-level committee on simultaneous elections chaired by former President Ram Nath Kovind claims that one nation, one election can boost economic growth or the GDP by 1.5%. The committee report further claims that simultaneous elections will lower inflation, improve educational outcome, and increase quality government expenditure. While the cost-saving potential of one nation, one election is significant, several challenges remain. India's federal structure and diverse political landscape will make it difficult for the government to implement one nation, one election.